Looking for coffee that can finally give you the flavor and experience you have been missing? Then your next coffee order should be from cstatecoffee.com. C State Coffee is premium, hand-selected, highest-grade available coffee that is roasted on order, delivered fresh to you. And right now, you can take 20% off your order by using GRIND20. That is GRIND and the number 20 for 20% off your C State Coffee order. Head over to cstatecoffee.com so you can enjoy the smoothest and most caffeinated coffee available. Start your day off right with C State Coffee. This week on the Route 16 Grind and the Outdoor Update, I'll talk about the passing of H.R. 2435, Accelerating Veterans Recovery Outdoors Act, and we're going to look at the government fine print in action with an update from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And from the field, as the deer season in North Carolina is coming to a close, I'm going to talk about some of my hunts, what I learned, and what I'm looking forward to in the next deer season. In the Rock Mud of Dirt, I'm going to talk about parts. New parts that I have added recently to route the Jeep and which parts I selected and why. And Go Adventure, I'm going to have a great conversation with Shawn from Jeep Hunt Outdoors. Then I wrap up the show with a cup of joe. Route 16 Grind, episode 34. Jeep, hunting, and adventuring.
Welcome to the Route 16 Grind, the podcast for outdoor adventurers. If you wheel, hunt, fish, overland, or are an all-around adventurer, this podcast is for you. Each week, we pour a cup of Sea State coffee and talk about informative topics, the gear, and the training that can help you have a successful outdoor adventure. We have amazing contributors and some great conversation. So, grab your cup, sit back, and enjoy the show.
All right, welcome back to the Route 16 Grind. I am Brian, your host, and I'm so glad to be back here. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a minute since the last time that I've been on here. Took some time off. I had to get a certification done for work. That was a goal of mine to do, and I was kind of putting off, but I need to put some time into studying and doing for that. And I had some other projects that I was working on that I wanted to get to, some personal projects. I had I'm a ham radio operator. I think I might have covered that in a couple of shows during on here, and I'll probably do some parts with it in the future, but I wanted to get the DMR set up and start utilizing that. And that's basically doing ham radio over the internet. It's kind of neat, kind of fun, easy to do, something you guys may want to check out. And then obviously, family time. I want to really focus on spending some time with my family and just relaxing and absorb that. It's been a crazy year, and I don't want to put those things that are important off. In the military, we always say our family is so important, but a lot of times they're absorbing the fact that, hey, you got to take off. You're not there. And, they're kind of, mama's running the house and taking care of everything, and the kids got to step up. So, I'm not in the military anymore, and I want to make sure to, take some of my own advice and apply it. So I took a little bit of a break, and I appreciate all the people that hit me up and you just wanted to check out and make sure I was doing okay. And I was, and I am, and assure you everything's going good. I'm very happy what's going on. And I had a lot of feedback to the podcast, believe it or not. I really appreciate you all hitting me up. I had a lot of great ideas, things that you all would like to do. And I'm going to start transitioning some things into the podcast through 2021. Some things, definitely the logo is going to change probably a little bit. I have some really cool things that I'm working on, and I'm going to start kicking into gear and doing that. And then I'll be sharing some of my volunteer stuff with you throughout the year as well, with what's going on with the CERT. And again, if you guys are ever interested in how do you start that one in your local area, please hit me up. I got plenty of information. I can send you in a couple of emails and get you rolling. All right, so let's get on with the show.
The Outdoor Update is brought to you by Tuffy Security Products. Having your vehicle broken into is not a laughing matter. Trust Tuffy Security Products to stop opportunistic thieves. Tuffy is the industry leader in automotive security and provides peace of mind when you walk away from your rig. Durable and easy to install. Tuffy Security Products has adventure-ready consoles, drawers, and lockboxes available for you to organize your rig and secure your gear. Visit TuffyProducts.com and use special offer code GRIND to save 10% on your order. Remember to lock it up.
Welcome back to the Outdoor Update, the weekly segment where we provide you with the stories, news, and information from the recent going-ons in the outdoor world. Great news, the Accelerating Veterans Recovery Outdoors Act was signed into law by President Trump earlier this month. but it's just the first step of many that need to take place before the first veterans who will hopefully benefit from the programs that are developed by this act. Remember, the Veterans Recovery Outdoors Act is provision within the Veterans Compact Act. The purpose of this provision was to establish an interagency task force comprised of members from Department of Veterans Affairs, Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Interior, and some other federal agencies. Now, they're looking to identify barriers and make recommendations to increase the use of public lands and other outdoor spaces for veteran medical treatment. This task force has 1 year to submit a report with their findings and recommendation. My recommendation with you, to you all, the listeners, is to continue to stay engaged with your elected representatives to ensure that this task force does their job. And the findings are not politicized solutions. They hold zero value to assisting the veteran community. If you're an organization that helps veterans out, if you already have some great sound solutions that you're employing that you see great results with, you got to get involved. Get with your representative. Get that information to this task force. Heck, try to get up there and brief the task force on what you're doing that's helping veterans. I know a lot of great groups that are out there. They do great things. Let's take it to the next level, because the only way that this task force is going to be successful in what it's developed for is for us to get involved. If we expect the government to make a solution, expect that solution to be jacked up. Now, switching over, we're going to talk about the Land and Water Conservation Fund. This is a fund that I keep a close eye on, and there are many benefits to the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It reaches all the way down to local communities. Earlier this year, we talked about how it has become permanently funded, which is great, but there's always fine print when you look up the fact that you have $9.5 billion over the next 5 years in the hands of government bodies. As this fund is not a tax, but is fueled by earnings of offshore oil and gas leasing, this fund becomes more appealing. The LWCF programs are managed by the Departments of Agriculture and Department of Interior. The USDA Forestry Service administers 2 LWCF programs, the State and Private Forestry Legacy Program and the National Forest System Land Acquisition Program. Department of Interior, they manage the federal and state programs as well. Their state program under the Act provides matching grants for states for acquisition and development of public outdoor recreation sites and facilities. So like all your parks, your baseball parks, that kind of thing like that. They also delegate the authority to the state program that is given by the National Park Service. The federal program under the Act provides the acquisition of land, water, and an interest to land and water by the federal government to secure public access, as well as to conserve land for endangered and threatened species, while also supporting voluntary conservation on private land. Understand that you have a big department, and then there's bureaus within those departments. Each one of those have their own little process on how they approve or disapprove or accept for these programs that are going to go into a land and water conservation program. This is kind of what I'm bringing out. There's so much bureaucracy that is built into stuff like this. With all this money, there are 2 federal departments that are fighting for dollars for projects. I don't care what you say. You have different government departments. They do fight for dollars. Every one of them wants to grow. Everyone wants to grow. So let's look at where all that money is being allocated to. So over the next 5 years, the $9.5 billion, here's the percentage that I was able to find. 70% of the national is going to the National Park Service. 15% is going to the Department of Agriculture Forestry Service. 5% to Fish and Wildlife Service. Another 5% to BLM or Bureau of Land Management. Another 5% to Bureau of Indian Education. And at least 65% of the money from the Legacy Restoration Fund must be spent on transportation projects, non-roadside service for public viewing, facing visitors, stuff like that. Up to 35% of the funding for transportation, the focus will be connected to recreation and on improving access for active management of wildfires. So there's a whole rundown of where, for percentage-wise, where a lot of this money is being allocated to. 2021, Department of Agriculture has a total of $220 million allocated for proposed priority state and private forestry legacy program and priority national forest system projects associated with the Land and Water Conservation Fund. As for the Department of Interior, they have $126 million allocated for their various projects. There's more than that is going on, but I'm going to focus on those numbers and kind of those specific projects. Understand that states need to advocate for their projects. They just don't show up. They have to go through a process to apply and all that stuff. They need to make sure they contact the right agency within the right department. They also need to understand they are in competition with other states specific projects in the states themselves. So when I say state specific, I mean internally to their state. Then outside of that, they're competing with all the other states that are looking for dollars to be pulled in for projects that go into programs within their own areas. Bring in the politics, and it's pretty much what it comes down to. If you don't believe that some of these projects approvals don't ride on what project sits in whose district, I think all of us are sadly mistaken. There is influence, no doubt, as these projects bring jobs. They enhance the property value in these districts where these projects reside in. Byproduct of increased property values, increased tax revenue. This is why, for me, I think a fund like the LWCF and how it's handled should be looked at closely. It should not be about kickbacks. It should not be about it's not the full intent of what the fund is for. Personally, for me, I don't think the government's hands should be out of the fund entirely. But hey, that's just me. As for states, when it comes to them getting their hands on these dollars, the states need to do their part. And I'll add to this: this fund is shared. It's not all about you and your state. Talking to you, New Mexico, specific New Mexico, all 6 of their projects that were submitted to the Department of Agriculture, they were approved. Now, for reference, the states who did not submit or make the cut, generally, they only have 1 or 2 projects that are approved. Or I should say the states that do submit and make the cut, they have 1 or 2 projects that are approved. New Mexico had 6 of their projects approved. The next closest states were California and Oregon. Each of those states have 3 of their projects approved by the Department of Agriculture. Now, when it came to the projects they submitted to the Department of Interior, focusing on Fish and Wildlife and Park Service, none of their projects that they submitted were approved. Now, a few groups were upset in the feeling that the reason they weren't approved was because of political playback for one reason or another, like, maybe they didn't support this, maybe they didn't support that, or some type of legislation. It's really just political whining. This is one fund, and it's distributed through a variety of different projects. And most states, when you go on there, and I'll put this in the show notes, when you go on the projects that are approved, it's not like all 50 states are in there. You're looking at like maybe 20, 25. And most of the states that have submitted, they might have one project, either from Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, or one from each, whatever. But it's not like, there's a state that has like the biggest number was New Mexico and that one, and they're still complaining. And that's just crazy. That's mind-boggling. But it's just the political spin that you see on these things that are out there. And I've seen that same political spin from organizations that, I respect. But when you start diving deeper into these things and you start splitting it out, you start seeing things that are just shady on all sides of the aisle. And that's why I keep saying you have to get involved. You have to look at this stuff for what it is. Don't listen to the talking heads. Go read what's out there. And then advocate the things that are important for you and your community and understanding how this fund operates. Again, personally, I just think if you're able to get government hands out of this fund, put it into a third party, I do feel it will be organized and managed much better because there'll probably be there'll probably be more accountability with it too. There'll be probably a lot less waste because with government, there's more bureaucracy. That means more hierarchy of administrative fees and administrative billets that you have to go through that are funded, etc. I think the money itself would be focused more on those projects that we're trying to obtain. Want to support the show? How about becoming a Route 16 Grind Patreon today for as little as $1 a month? It's not just a contribution, but an investment that goes directly to the show. Help this podcast expand and grow. Check out the show notes for the link to our Patreon page.
The Red Warren Badge says you're equipped to handle anything, ready to conquer any challenge that may come your way. That badge has stood for off-road excellence for more than 70 years. During that time, we haven't stopped innovating or striving for perfection. Be ready. Be prepared. Go Warn.
When you hear the calls, you know we have a report from the field. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my deer season here. I had a great time during deer season. It's getting ready to close out. It is a New Year's Eve today, the day I'm recording this, and so it's going to close up. I'm not going to be able to get out. This season, I think I did a really good job of scouting. Everywhere I went to, in preparation. And I did a lot of focus on the private land, the lease. I didn't really do any public land hunting. Unfortunately, a lot of it came down to just time available to go out and do hunts. So I focus a lot on the area that I'm working on a lease with a couple of friends of mine, because I really wanted to learn that property. It's the first year I fully hunted that property, and I really wanted to know it. And so that's where my goal was, to get a better understanding of that, the animal life in there. And it's going to be continuously growing while I'm out there. And I had a really good stand that I focused on. I had put in another stand I'll get to with that I was focusing on for my son and I to hunt out of. And we had very good, food plots and corn feeders, all that kind of stuff. So everything was really, I think, done pretty well in the preparation. Then when it came to season opener, archery season, I definitely let a good share of deer go by. I just wanted to kind of get a feel of what was coming in, the size and all that. I didn't see any real champions, if you will, as far as like big bucks, 4 or 5 year old bucks with, some king antlers and stuff. We do have a few like 8 and 10 pointers that are out there, probably creeping up on the 3-year mark. And the place that I do a lease with 2 friends, we focus on a lot of QDMA things. We want the deer to mature up. If you get a healthy deer, you want it to be able to, make other healthy deer, if you will. If we see one that is, limp, wounded, sickly, definitely we'll take it out. So we do a lot of QDMA things out there. So it's not just about filling the freezer, and I'm not in a position where that's where I get all my protein either. And again, my focus this deer season was a lot on education of that specific area. When I did get into the stand, unfortunately, it was warm days. I think 2 things were major factors in my hunting season were the temperature. I think the humidity a little bit. Some of the humidity marks, some of the days humidity was outside of a good range, but it was also the deer started transitioning to more of a nocturnal movement cycle. They, like during hunting hours or sun up, sundown hours, when the sun's up, they weren't really moving a lot. Some things you could do is actually just kind of just walk through the brush and try and, stir one up off of a bed down. And this is where you like doing some ground hunting. This is not something I would necessarily do. I probably wouldn't feel comfortable in the areas that I do public land hunt, because I don't really hunt out there as often. And I don't know them well enough to say that someone's going to not be in a lane or not. But you can do that, like in the area that we hunt for the private land, a little bit more, you have a little bit more flexibility when it comes to your safety. It's not saying that someone that can't be out there doing something they shouldn't be and being somewhere they shouldn't be, but you have a little more flexibility. So you kind of just get online, or you just walk through the brush, try and stir one up with a shotgun, shooting buckshot or slug or something. So definitely did that one time and stirred some things up, and I didn't have really a good shot, so I didn't do it. But I mean, they're out there, tracks everywhere. We have, and when I looked at trail cams, I had probably two cams that I focused on. And I mean, there'll be like 6, 7 doe sitting on one of those cams. Definitely a lot of doe out there. So those young bucks are pretty happy. But I spent a lot of time walking around, looking at tracks, looking at trails, looking at scrapes, and getting a really good understanding of that area. Now, as far as successes, my son and I, we went out to the coast to Mortalius Outdoor Adventures. That's where we went and did the pig hunt last year. So during the opening of rifle, my son and I went out there that weekend to go hunt deer and pig. And it was, again, like it was, cold on Friday, but then it just turned warm for the weekend. So it was just really crazy. Did not see a lot of stuff. Did not, like we were out, we saw a lot of raccoons, possum, that kind of stuff. Did not really see any, I don't think I did see any pig at all. It was pretty warm. And then when we went out to the different areas, my son, actually the only deer we saw, my son was able to harvest, and initially thought it was a doe, but then ended up being a button buck. And so he was able to harvest that and be the hunter of the year for for us when it comes to deer. And then, I think after that, I focused on some other projects. I didn't really get out. I think I got out one more time after that weekend. So I didn't really spend too much time in the stand. I definitely, when I would go out to put in corn in the feeders and stuff, I would walk around. We have a lot of rabbit out there. We have a lot of squirrels, dove. I think we're going to be able to lease a field that's adjacent to a majority of the area that we have for hunting. So next dove season, I'm looking at utilizing that field. But it's a great property. Very fortunate to be able to get that. And I will tell you this, I learned a lot about my gear. I went, because I'm not, this really the first time in my life I really committed to tree stand hunting. And, having hooks, things to hook on, obviously area to secure off of, how you work with your harness and stuff, how you bring gear in, how you bring it up. I definitely, utilizing a rest is another thing. And it's also different between, hey, if it's archery, if you're bringing in a rifle, shotgun, what have you. And then I got a really good understanding of what particular corn is. Really just might sound, but I found that I had a lot more movement with one brand of corn to the other. Now, some of you it may not have that. I would love to hear your feedback on it, but there was a particular brand that I found that as soon as these deer smelled it, they just wanted to go eat it up, and you would see the result of it too. Because we would put some on the ground, and you would see a lot more of the corn gone the next day versus, other ones where you might just see nibble here, nibble there, and then some, nibbling around the grass. Or, I also planted some deer radishes. Those should be full blossom for next season. But overall, I learned a lot, and that's where the focus was at. That really is where it was at. I think next year, if I see an early opportunity, I'll probably take it. Just to be straight up, just because the way the weather was this time. I was planning on the time where it's supposed to get cold to be cold, and that just didn't happen. It's just really getting cold in the last couple of weeks. So, hey, lesson learned. If there's an opportunity in the first week, and I know there's some individuals, they'll say, hey, if I see it, I'm going to take it. And it just, for me, it's just everyone is going to have their own approach to how they're going to hunt and what specifically they're going to harvest. And it's also a lot based off of what your goal is. I don't need a tag out. I mean, I think my goal this year was to try and get, a couple, and anything beyond that would have just been a bonus. But I don't think right now I'm at a place where I feel that I need to harvest 6 deer, which is the amount of tags that you get here in North Carolina. You get 4 doe and 2 bucks. So, or, I should say 4 antlerless deer and 2 bucks. But yeah, so as far as my son, I mean, I was really proud of that, because initially it was like just sitting there we're actually in a blind, and we're just sitting there not seeing anything. And this, going on that hunt was interesting because he's older now and he's got a little more confidence with hunting. We've gone, pig hunting before, with dove hunting. Some of y'all might remember that. And also we'll do a lot of scouting. I'll take him out, do some scouting. And when we're doing the feeders, he'll be out there with me. So he's got a lot of confidence going on. And then, when we're looking, he's realized that hunting's a lot of sitting, wait, and be patient. It's not just sitting there going, oh, hey, there it is, take it. And that, you're only out there 15, 20 minutes and it's all done. I think he learned a lot of the aspect of that, because there's a lot of times you go out where you're unsuccessful versus every time you go out, you can be successful. And looking across North Carolina, it seemed to be kind of a dismal season for a lot of hunters. And what I mean by that is there wasn't a lot of success that when you compare to other ones. And again, I think a lot of it had to do more with the temperature than anything else. And I did see in other areas, because what I like doing is like looking at groups in different areas across the state and see what those patterns are with that deer. And I noticed with them too, a lot of nocturnal activity versus daylight. I talked to one of my partners there at the lease, and there's some things that we're going to try out. I don't really want to put it out there yet. I want to actually try it and see if it works. And whether it works or not, I will share it with you. But next deer season, we're going to try some things that, hopefully will stimulate them to move around more in the daytime versus, just wait until the sun goes down. And and I tell you what, the times that I did see deer in my stand literally was like that 10-minute window before sunset was the biggest one. It wasn't even like the daylight. It was actually sunset. So like, you're sitting in there. I would get in like, say 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would sit in that stand all the way till sunset. Sunset at sometimes, it'll be like 7 o'clock, and 10 minutes till 7 o'clock, that those deer would show up and walk through and nibble and all that stuff. And it was very routine like that. But yeah, I had a really good time. I got to spend time in a double stand with my son. We put a double stand up in that lease area. We found this one giant circle area that we, put the deer radish in, put corn in. There's also a large lane we're going to put another stand in. And it was really cool sitting up there with them because he learned a lot of lessons of preparation. There were some things that would help him to stay warmer. It was a super cold day that morning that we were out there. It was like 30 degrees, 28, 30 degrees. And so he learned a lot about, gear, how he could set it up a little bit better because now there's two of us, how we can bring up, who goes up first, how we bring stuff up, how we orient, how we situate. And then on top of it, understanding how to be ready. So you have to for me, it's about having your gear set up. Your whatever you're going to take with him in his situation was a rifle, having that already ready to go before, so you're not moving around. It's probably a better way to say it, not moving around to when you see your opportunity, because you're probably going to spook it and it's going to probably leave and you're going to be all sad. But I had a very good time. I noticed that a couple friends of mine had some really great success in other states, and I'm really happy for them. And, it's all about learning. And I was hoping to get a pretty good deer this year. It just didn't happen. It wasn't in the cards. But it also goes into the fact you have to get out there. You have to make yourself available and really look at that schedule. And I think next year what I could do better is look more at the weather patterns and find those days where I feel I'm going to have better success based off those weather patterns. A lot of times I would just say, I have some time. I'm just going to get out there and go. I really didn't. The day was the day. There was no really set, reason or focus to why, hey, the humidity's right, the temperature's right, whatever the case may be. I really didn't look at that. I just looked at the fact of, I'm not doing nothing right now. I just get out there. Next year, I'm going to try to take more of, if you will, a scientific approach to some days and make sure I do that. And I think if we do go back out to the coast and do hunt, because I really like going out there, I really like the guys that run that. If we do go out there, I probably will push myself later into November, December range to go out there. We might do like a combo bear hunt or something like that, but I think we'll push out because that way I have more opportunity for it to be cold versus potentially like a fall spring that we might have here in North Carolina. But I don't know about how your season went. If you want to share it, let us know. Far as things that are outside of deer season, you got rabbit, you got squirrel. So some opportunities to go out there. And I'll tell you what, hunting squirrel and rabbit is fun. And, rabbit's pretty good. I have not yet had because last year, if you remember, I went out squirrel hunting on like the last day of squirrel season, and I couldn't find a squirrel. And that's why I was saying, like, oh my God, I understand the purpose of a squirrel dog now. But I think here, I'm probably going to go out, take my son out squirrel hunting. I might go out and we'll probably do some rabbit and do that. So it'll be fun. And, right around the corner is turkey season and the new year. Really looking forward to that. Totally ready for turkey season. Zero doubt I'm going to have success on that. And I'm looking forward to it. And I think the goal is just to where if my son gets one, I get one. Pretty happy. Anything outside of that, we get 2 tags here in North Carolina. Anything outside of that's just a bonus. But really looking forward to it. I have to give a big shout out to Lacrosse as far as the boots that I wear. Those things are awesome. I have snake boots that they make. I can't remember the exact style, so forgive me on that one. They are amazingly comfortable. If you want to hit me up and ask me what style they are and all that, I'm more than happy to share that. But if there's going to be one piece of gear that I have to say this hunting season I am so impressed with and I'm grateful for, it's my boots. My feet were never a problem, and I did a lot of walking, a lot. I did a lot of scouting, and never had an issue with them. From the moment that I got them out of the box that I put them on, they have been comfortable and they are in great form, great shape. They have been wet, soggy, muddy, everything in between, and they are really holding up. They're probably 2 years old now, and I really appreciate them. And again, it's like little things like that that you can do to enhance your experience and to ensure that your focus can be on the game you're hunting and you can enjoy that experience. So if you want to share your deer hunting experience this year, please send a pic. Tell us the story. There's some great ones that are out there. I think I shared with everyone the button buck my son got. I'm so excited. I was so proud of him. He does have the skull sits on his desk. He got his pig skull and he's got his button buck skull next to him. And yeah, if you guys want to share some of your hunting experiences out there, lessons learned, or even gear that you enjoyed wearing that you felt complimented your hunt, no doubt, if you want to have a good hunting experience, you got to have good gear. We'd like to feature your success in outdoor adventures, so shoot the pics over to us with a brief story. Rootonesix.com and select contact. That's rootonesix.com and select contact.
Take your rig to the next level with the Nexen Roadian MTX, featuring an aggressive tire design that's extremely versatile for on- and off-road driving. Each tire boasts a dual sidewall design that allows you to customize the look of the tire on your rig. The Nexen Roadian MTX might have rugged traits, but thanks to its patented tread block design, road noise is minimized. Nexen's innovative technology, state-of-the-art manufacturing, and award-winning designs have ensured Nexen is not an industry secret anymore. When you need performance on the road and the trail, choose Nexen.
Welcome to the Rock, Mud, and Dirt, sponsored by Nexen Tire. This segment where I talk about people, brands, and products and events from the off-road world. This week, I'm going to talk about parts, Jeep parts, specifically the parts that I put on Root the Jeep, the brand Jeep for Root 16. So I had to replace the front drive shafts. I started getting that clicking, when you turn, you put it in four-wheel drive, you hear like a click, click, click. And I researched that up on the web, and I learned that it was a front drive shaft. Initially, I thought it was going to be my gears, and that wasn't it. It was definitely the front drive shaft, especially when we pulled it off and you look at the front part of it and it kind of like moves around. It was just nothing but dust coming out of it. So it was a good thing that I took it off when I did, because that thing was going to split at some point. And I originally wanted to get a Omnix ADA front drive shaft. That was my first choice. But the issue with that was it would have been on back order. It would have been on back order all the way till I think late January, February. I needed to replace it no later than December. So with that one actually being out and way out, I went and selected the Smitty built non-CV style front drive shaft, and that's part number 55827B for Smitty built. And I have to say, there are friends of mine that have this drive shaft. They've used it for a few years. So I was very confident in, purchasing this item and understanding that there haven't been any issues. There are, you look at reviews, there are some people that have this or that. I think some of it was from poor installation, things that they didn't plan for, whatever the case may be. But everyone that I know that has these, which is a pretty good handful of people that are running them, they've had nothing but positive reviews of it. So I went with that because it was available. And as far as my price point, it was a pretty decent price point. So I'm pretty happy with it. Very easy installation. Wasn't too complex. I had nothing but good things to say about it with that. Now, if you do go with that specific model, you do need to purchase not just the drive shaft itself, but you also need to purchase the yoke eliminator. You're going to need to have that. So that part, make sure you have that as well. Some other things that I've replaced are the springs. I've had Rubicon Express springs on for about 7.5 years, 8 years, whatever the case may be. And I've enjoyed them, but I was starting to get a lot more play than I wanted, specifically driving every day, making a turn and whatnot. So I did some research, and I wanted to get something where for a daily driver, I was going to be a little bit better ride in some aspects, specifically in the turns. And so I went ahead and selected the Skyjacker soft ride front coil springs, and I also got rear coil springs that were Skyjacker. And I've really got to say, it was a really good installation, not too complex. I had help with that, and they run real well. My vehicle seems a little bit more stiff in some aspects, but I am getting the articulation where I need to. I'm not doing massive rock crawling like a lot of guys do. My Jeep's getting a little bit older, so I need to be a little bit more protective of it, if you will. There's a couple things I want to replace before I go back out and do some crazy stuff. And on top of it, it's a daily driver. I don't have it for a crawl build. It's for, some good technical terrain, but nothing too extreme, even in the Rubicon package that I have with the Dana 44s. But those Skyjackers, I tell you what, initially I was a little bit hesitant. I looked at reviews and for what I was supposed to be looking for, nothing but good things. If those weren't available, I probably went back to Rubicon Express with that. I do have a 2.5-inch lift, and I noticed that I did have a little bit of a dip. The Rubicon Express seemed to give it a little bit more of a body lift with their springs, not so much with the Skyjackers, but that was not something that, I'm here nor there on that far as the springs themselves. So really happy with that. I also replaced the front sway bar. So I got the sway bar itself was a Rubicon Express sway bar, a real easy installation with that. Very, just... if for me, I had to replace the electronic sway bar. That whole piece was just done. It was actually in two pieces. It didn't lock. And I should say it was always in sort of a locked mode. And you could not disengage it. I had an adapter where I would turn and it would, open it up, but that didn't work anymore. So I was like, I'm going to take this whole thing out and just put in a sway bar, put that one in there. And then far as the disconnects, I went with a rock crawler disconnects. I got to say, I'm really happy with those. I can pull them right off. I know with some of the newer packages, they come with straps. You can tie them down and you can buy those separately as well. But the rock crawler one's a real easy installation, followed through pretty well. You got to get those screws of the height itself for where it matches up with the sway bar. You want the sway bar parallel. You got to make sure there is. I do recommend, even though those come with the lock nuts, you want to put Loctite or something on there. I did have one that was coming a little bit loose, and I noticed, and that was the one. I can't remember which one I didn't put Loctite on. Well, I found out, and it did come a little bit loose. So you want to make sure that you do that as well. But those are the current things that I put on there. They've been on there for over a month now. I'm very happy with them. I have gone off-roading with all those things, and I'm very, very happy with it. One other thing I forgot to even mention were the outer seals for my Dana 44. I had to replace those. Definitely utilize a shop for that. Mechanic did those, and also replace the inner seals. I got to say the 1010 products that I use for those outer seals, yeah, those things are tight. I replaced my inner seals a couple times. I always had somewhat of a leak. Maybe it was just a bad installation. You say what you want. I mean, I went and got good ones, but I saw some good reviews with the 1010 products. I got those, and I'm very happy with that. Not a drip coming out of my outer seal. Pretty happy with that. And the inner seals, it just needed. It was time. Replace those, and pretty happy. So my Dana 44, as far as like any drips or oozes and splats, that thing ain't happening anymore. But yeah, Root the Jeep is getting some miles on it. I mean, it's 2008 Rubicon JKU. Has over 200, I think we're sitting about 220,000 miles now. So there's a lot of different things I have to do with it. It's just that time to replace some things before things bust. And I'm looking at also replacing the radiator, the intercooler, a lot of the hoses and stuff, just time to pull those things out and put new stuff in. So Root the Jeep can keep on going for another 200, 400, or even more, 1,000 miles. I'm pretty happy with it. Got to take care of it. I don't see me owning another vehicle. Not about any of y'all. There are some pretty nice ones that are out there, but yeah, maybe a second vehicle that's a little, more modern. I don't know. We'll see it, but I'm pretty happy. So that's what I've been up to. I've been doing a lot of different things with Root the Jeep. I got a little bit more work to do with it. And I'll keep you posted with what those things. Do you have any questions on the products that I chose? A lot of it had to do with accessibility and price point. Like seriously, and obviously a lot of with the reviews itself. But if you have any questions on those things, hey, feel free to reach out to me. Why I selected that? I mean, I have access to a lot of different brands, and I could have gone higher end on some things. But if there's not a need to do that, if I was rock crawling every day, I probably would change certain products. But I'm not rock crawling every day. I'm using my vehicle to drive in and out, and then when I have a chance, I go out and wheel. So kind of look at it from my lifestyle with Root the Jeep in that aspect. All right, so yeah, hit me up if you have any questions on that stuff. I'm more happy to share. And if you need help as far as getting parts, you know where you should go. It's rootonesix.com.
Go Adventure!
Welcome to the Go Adventuring segment. This is the segment we celebrate people, groups, and organizations that bring positive outdoor adventures to you. This week we talk with Jeeper, adventurer, overlander, duck hunter, and avid outdoorsman Shawn from Jeep Hunt Outdoors. Shawn, welcome to the Route 16 Grind.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you. I know that we just kind of reached out today and we talked a little bit, but yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on. You got a pretty active lifestyle we want to definitely talk about. Tell us a little about yourself and where you're at and what you're about.
So basically, I retired out of the military after about 23 years. I know this is going to sound funny to a lot of our veteran guys out there, but I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, 4 years in the Army, and 15 years in the Air Force.
Oh, man. So yeah, you started off hard. You went, you kind of just worked yourself to where I need a little bit easier life.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was a lot of decision-making process. And I'll be honest with you, and I know it's going to upset a few people, but I will still tell you that the Marine Corps was the best branch of service to be in. I definitely still consider myself to be a Marine.
Oh, yeah, once Marine, always Marine, devil.
I really enjoy that life. Yes, exactly.
You just go temporary assignment to those guys. You're still a Marine.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, loved it. It was a great time. Basically, every job that I had, I was a 0311 with a secondary 0331 in the Marine Corps. So
you had the good life.
A lot of my outdoor time. Yeah, good life.
So you're infantry. For those people that may not know those numbers, that's straight leg grunt right there.
Yep. So I'm proud of it. I know there's, I've talked to other Marines where we've just, no matter where you're at, what you're doing, what your job was, there's always a bond there, and it's unshakable, it seems like. So it's a great organization to be a part of, I should say, not to be part of it. But yeah, great time. Went into the Army, was infantry again for 4 years. Was not the best time in the world, but it served a purpose. And then I went into the Air Force, and I was a cop for 15 years.
No kidding. So security forces, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you travel around a lot then.
Also, you know what? To be honest with you, I did most of my traveling while I was in the Marines and the Army. The Air Force, I stayed at one base for 15 years.
No kidding. That's crazy.
It is. And, a lot of guys don't know this, but there's an AGR program out there. It's a good program and it's a bad program. Rank development sucks. You get locked into these positions and you sign on contracts every 4 years, just like, your regular one does. You're active duty, but you fall underneath the reserve or AGR command. So you get kind of locked into those spots. And the only way to get out of them is to actively try to go to another base, get accepted, and then switch your orders over to that new base. So they don't just automatically transfer you. So some people look at it as bad, some people look at it as good, but for family life, it actually helped out a lot. You're still able to serve your country, do your job, do something you enjoy, and still keep your family in one spot and in the whole, good life. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, man, that's not a bad deal. And it's great you had that opportunity, and, it seemed to work out for you. So as far as your outdoor stuff and everything, did that come a lot from, your military service? I think you mentioned something about that earlier. Was that where you first got it? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say I've always kind of been outdoors. I grew up, around animals and doing 4-H and FFA. One of those kids in your school. No kidding.
Future Farmers of America, man. That's a program that I think we need more of, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot to be said for getting outside and doing an honest day's worth of work and just, how do you put it? Just be in touch with nature and the outdoors. There's a lot to say.
No, I'm with you, man. When I was a kid,
oh,
I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I did a lot of roughnet work out in West Texas. My friend's grandfather owned a bunch of land out there, and he had watermelon, cattle, and he also had oil wells and stuff. And I'm telling you right now, when I worked out there, I was ready for the Marine Corps. Absolutely was. Like, as far as the getting up early and all that, like all the things that are culture shock when people get in boot camp. Of course, you went to Marine Corps boot camp and you understand, like you see guys that just never, had a regimented schedule they had to stick to, and they didn't know how to adapt to that right off the bat, where you're like, okay, it's 3 a.m. Got to get up, got to feed those cows by 4, which makes no damn sense because cows eat 24 hours a day. So I still to this day can tell me why I got to get up at 3 a.m. to feed a cow. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's on the first thing on the list.
Well, it's funny is because like at 3 o'clock in the morning, we didn't have a lot of cow. I raised a beef steer one year, but I had a lot of goats.
Okay.
And the biggest thing about getting up early in the morning and doing the goats is I had to feed the goats, and I also had to milk like 10 head of goat before I got on the bus to go to school. So which means eating your breakfast, getting cleaned up so you don't smell like crap when you go to school, when you're sitting next to all your other students in the classroom. And, just getting your day started that way. And then when you come home, it's like rinse and repeat. You're doing it all again.
Yeah. And homework's a vacation, actually. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing is people are like, yeah, I can sit here and just like study and not like have to do physical labor. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I know when I took a few college classes when I was in the military, and it was a lot easier to do schoolwork then than it was when I was a kid.
I mean, it's great that you appreciate that. It like, the aspect of time management. And then when you realize how much you can really fit in a day when you work that, and then when you don't have those roles and those duties anymore, and you get into the world in a different aspect, you're like, man, I have so much time. Like, and I got stuff I can do. It's just crazy when you have those opportunities and you know what to do with them. It's probably the better way to say it, because sometimes you do the wrong things.
Oh yeah, for sure. We were all young Marines one time. We used to do a lot of wrong things. So.
That's all classified. So when did you were you hunting when you were a kid as well?
Actually, no, I didn't do a lot of hunting when I was a kid. I didn't really start doing any hunting until I retired, to be honest with you.
No kidding.
I did some fishing when I was growing up. Yeah. It was one of those, it was one of those things I always kind of wanted to try. Wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with that. Cause I mean, most hunters, you could look at a hunting rag and there is a lot of options out there. And there's a lot of restrictions as well, so it was like my first 3-4 years, I literally tried to hunt everything I could possibly do just to figure out what I wanted to do. And to be honest with you, I'm still kind of learning things now. So like, some of the hunting things are taking me in different directions, which I'm having a lot of fun with.
Now you're up in Washington State, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Up in Central.
Yep. So I'm just looking at, as far as game that's up there and stuff. So you got a lot of game actually out there.
Oh yeah. You can elk, bear, cougar, deer. There's turkey hunting. You can even apply for a moose tag once in a while, and you're not going to get one all the time. There's also bighorn sheep. So
oh, wow.
A lot of different varieties. So, I mean, there's some of the tags. I mean, yeah, you got to put in for a tag, and if you get drawn that year, you're good to go. Certain areas, all the good little things that go with the wildlife game department.
Yeah, every state's different. Is it veteran friendly now? So you're retired. Are you able to utilize some of your benefits for that?
Oh yeah, so I'm not trying to go into too deep on it right now, but I put in all my stuff through the VA, got 100% rating. I turned that over to the game department, so I get a discount on my hunting license, amongst some other stuff. But the hunting license is a little bit cheaper for me. And then, to be honest with you, I've done it in a couple other states. Like I go down to Cali, a couple times a year. I got family down there, and I turn in all my paperwork for that, and I get a discounted hunting license down there as well. So any of you vets out there not taking advantage of that, you need to.
Oh, I'm
really
with
need to.
you. In North Carolina, if you get, I think, above a 50% rating, you can apply for a one-time fee. I think it's $120. You get all the tags for deer, any of the big game tags. So deer and turkey here, you get all those tags. You can also get saltwater and freshwater all together. Lifetime 120. You get those. All you gotta do is submit your name every year to get your new license, or your new tags, I should say, and all that. There's a special sportsman license that you can apply for. And that's a big deal right there. So I agree with you. Like, veterans, you're out there, if you're not utilizing some of those benefits, and people that aren't veterans, that's just not us, it's just a reality of, of service. You spend 20 years and the way I always tell people said, you don't really get anything for free, because that's pretty much, the agreement of services rendered. So like you'll get a benefit far as from the VA medical care. So I find it interesting when people say, well, you get free something. No, it definitely cost me something. So it was services rendered and all that. It's paid for. So we're good.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I actually spent a long time freaking not taking advantage of the services, because I always felt like I didn't deserve them for some reason.
So many veterans struggle with that, which is, I get it. I understand. And it always takes someone nudging you. I had to get nudged.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had a bunch of people nudging me left and right about it, and finally turned it all in. It was like, holy smokes. Even when I did the VA turn-ins, I just kind of turned it in. I didn't really push for anything.
Right. You get your stuff and you're like, okay. So
yeah. And I ended up submitting twice, because I actually, believe it or not, my VA therapist, because I go to therapy it used to be every 2 weeks, but I go to therapy every 2 months now, which is good. But he's the one that pushed me to finish turning in all my paperwork. He's like, you need to do this. You rate it. It belongs to you. He's like, you need to take advantage of what is being offered to you. And it's really not taking advantage of anything. It's being offered to you, but you have to stick your hand out there and grab it. And if you don't, you're not going to get it.
And it takes work, actually. Like, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of appointments, and a lot of follow-ups. So it's not like you put your name in and they read something, and there's a lot of, again, the follow-up appointments too, where, your justification of your rating and all sorts of stuff. So it's an intense process, take months to even years to complete. So that's great. I'm happy that you're able to, receive the benefits that you do. You definitely earned them and pursue the things that you're enjoying. Now, going back to the fact that you really didn't say, I'm kind of a little bit similar to you in the aspect. I did some hunting as a kid, and then when I went into the service, I didn't, when I joined the Marines, last thing I wanted to do was go back into, the woods and do some hunting on the weekends. I spent so much time in it during the week, or weeks, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
So when I retired, I was thinking, I want to get back into hunting and stuff. I've been retired 11 years now. I didn't get back into hunting until a couple of years ago, when I finally was like, screw it. I need to go do something. I want to, increase my, personal therapy, if you will. And I got back into hunting. I met a great gentleman, Chuck, used to be one of the hosts of this show here. And he helped me out and, got me started in turkey hunting, and the rest is in the book. And going out, and this podcast has a lot to do with it. So getting people out there and stuff. So very similar in many aspects, but what really was the trigger for you to say, you know what, I want to get back into hunting?
To be honest with you, I needed a way. You kind of described it with your own personal therapy. When I retired out of the military, I spent about a year of kicking around. I worked a part-time job. I was trying to work on the home that we got, which I'm still doing, but I've learned to take a step back and it'll get done eventually. But I wanted to really figure out a way to clear my head, to keep things on the correct path. And the only thing I could think of was get outdoors, do some hiking, do some fishing, go hunting, and you meet cool people. All the guys I've went hunting with, none of them are military, but every one of them has done nothing but support and have my back 100% and show me the ropes on a lot of this stuff. And it's just been an amazing journey. Like, I think as military guys, sometimes we forget that our civilian counterparts, they're not always there talking crap about us. They're actually, they're there, you know, ready to lend a hand, you know, when they can, you know, which is awesome.
Yeah. They're people. And I love how you said that too, because one of the things I think sometimes veterans struggle with is, you know, when they leave the service, they're kind of like, the culture's different outside the service, obviously, for its own reasons. And, you know, the civilian world is not going to adapt to how you feel it should be because of, you know, how it was in the service. You need to find a way to it. Just like anytime you went anywhere for your role, you had to adapt to that situation, adapt to, you know, the role that you're playing. Well, you know what? Civilian life's no different. And again, engagement start with you. You need to be willing to engage, but also willing to respect the fact that, hey, you know what, this guy may not have, or this gal may not have any service experience. They might not know all your acronyms. They may not know, you know, what a big deal it was to be a grunt, you know, like they may not know all that stuff. So you have to take that in
for sure.
You know, and I think that's where the trouble is, and that's why communication is so important. And think of it this, like hunting became a bridge for you and the people within your community. Now you can share ideas, and that's a great thing. That is a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. And that's how I kind of look at it. It's, you know, you need, like, don't get me wrong. I know we talk a lot about outdoors, but like a lot of us, you know, I still sit around the house, play video games once in a while. I mean, like, I'm not going to lie to you, but you can't do that all the time.
We don't like liars here.
These guys. Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, I hear so many horror stories of like guys locking themselves away and doing nothing but playing video games, and they can't figure out why they're not getting any better. You know, and it's like, and I'm not saying this is the end all cure all, but it helps. It, especially like sometimes when you just get out with one or two guys, or just by yourself, if you can, you know, if you got a safe environment to go to where you can get out into the woods and, you know, you're not too far away from anything, where you can get back if you need to, you know, under duress or whatnot, then get out and, you know, just take a deep breath, pack a freaking lunch, you know.
Yeah. I find so much peace.
And look over the valley.
There is, man. There's so much peace out there. There's a lot more peace out there than people realize, but it's because they can't just move, 30 minutes away from their center spot right now or something. Peace is out there. And that's that is one of the biggest things that I enjoy, is getting out there. And on top of it, you know, I love the whole challenge of nature. That's the thing, is man always challenges nature. And the reality is this: nature will always win. And then I'm not talking about just the game. I'm talking about the conditions, all that stuff. Like, these animals are survivalists, and, you know, the conditions, they are what they are, and you can study them, you can look at it, but things will change in seconds. And you're like, man, this is crazy that this has happened. And now you have to adapt to it. And I enjoy those aspects of it. And you learn every time I go in the woods, or, you know, it could be something so simple like, hey, I'm just going to do some simple scouting on this flat farmland. I learned something, absolutely learned something.
Yeah.
You know, my gear could be better. How I walk in and walk out could be better. How I'm tracking things could be better. You know, the aspect of where I'm going to set up at could be better. Like, there's so many things that you could be improving on. And, you know, when you hear some of these old timers who have been hunting the same property for so many years, and they're constantly learning, that tells you something.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Definitely agree with you on that. There's a lot to be said for Mother Nature and her healing capabilities, and also her teaching capabilities. So I think that's what a lot of us lack sometimes when we get out. We're not learning. You remember having to do hip pocket classes?
What's that?
Like, you'd sit down. You remember having to do like hip pocket training when you're in the military?
Yeah. Like, kill time, man. 1300 formation,
yeah,
you know.
but they would always go over like the same crap. And you're like sitting there thinking to yourself sometimes, because you're staring off into space and you're not paying half attention to the freaking corporal or the sergeant that was giving the classes. You know, you're going on with this, but if you really paid attention, you know, because every once in a while you did, you learned something new about something you already thought you knew a lot about. So, and I think that's the same way with hunting in the outdoors. Is those are hip pocket classes for us. We get out there and we learn something new. We discover something in an area that we've been to a million times, but yet all of a sudden, wait a minute, that's a cool looking rock. I've never seen that before.
You hit on a good point. You have to be willing to listen, though. You have to be in that condition that, you know, and that's it. Because I know plenty of time, like being a teenager, just shut it off, just sit there and look straight ahead. And, you know, okay, I did my penance, I can go, but you didn't learn anything. But yeah, I know you have to be willing to listen. And it's, gosh, man, there's so much stuff that, you know, just, you can find out a lot about yourself. It's probably a good way to put it too. You can definitely get some good time to think. And, you know, if you really want to challenge yourself, I mean, hey, there's plenty of different game out there. You can do it. I mean, deer hunting here, because I'm from Texas originally, and you know, obviously it's a open spaces and that stuff, a little bit of hill country and, you know, all that. Here, it's pretty much put out a feeder, put up a stand, you know, a lot of, you know, plant some food plots, that kind of thing. And, you know, when I first started it, I was kind of like, I felt weird. I never did deer stand hunting, and I felt weird about it. Now I'm kind of okay. But every time I go in, but I found that, you know, in the deer stand, I can really collect my thoughts. I can listen better. And just go, I mean, really, I found that going back to the whole discipline mode, because, you know, you're not doing a lot of moving around. You're just constantly moving eyes and scanning, and you're ready. You're set up. Like, at least in my deer stand, I'm set up. So if something just comes out, you know, I'm like seconds away from employing, you know, whether it's my bow or rifle, for the game that I'm going for there. But yeah. I've come to like it a little bit. I'm not going to say I'm fully there. I think that I'm going to look at doing more ground hunting next year, than deer stand, just because I know that I enjoy that more, in many ways, but that's a lot more challenging with deer, a lot more challenging. So, but hey, you know definitely. What? We're going to roll this all up into hunting, but we need to talk about all the other things that you do, man. So you also like a Jeeper too, man. You got, like, what kind of Jeep you got?
So I have a 2008 JK Unlimited, the Rubicon model. I bought it used. Did not know what I was getting into. Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
I'm always broke now.
Always broke. But the reality behind it was, to be honest with you, is like, I didn't really know anything about Jeeps at all. And, so I bought a used Jeep that had some wear and tear on it. And if I knew now what I knew then, I would have definitely not bought the Jeep that I bought. But with that being said, I'm so thankful I bought that Jeep, because it's been a big part of my life. I mean, I use it for everything, and I've learned so freaking much, because I've had to replace this, fix this, do this, just to get her running good, you know, just to make sure that she's on par with whatever I got to do.
How would you react the first time someone waved at you?
That was kind of a weird moment. So,
you're like, what the hell? I don't know that guy or girl.
It took me a while to grasp that. Well, actually, it didn't take me a while. It took me a little bit to grasp the concept. So I had a similar thing happen to me with a different type of vehicle. I used to have a motorcycle.
Right.
And all the motorcycles, you know, they do their little wave as you go by and stuff as a sign of respect. Boom. Good to go. So the first time it happened in the Jeep, I was like, why is this idiot waving to me? And it was a dude, to top it off. And I'm like, why is this guy I don't know him.
I don't owe you money.
You know? I don't owe you money. I don't know you. Never seen that vehicle. Didn't know what it was. And I actually reached out to another buddy of mine that had a Jeep, and I was asking him about it. And then he kind of explained it to me. And I was like, you mean like the motorcycle guys do? And he's like, yeah. I kind of thought it was cool at that point. I was like, oh, I belong to an elite special club.
You know what though? I'm going to tell you this. So I had an XJ for years. So the old box Cherokee model, right? For years.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody ever waved at me. I got a 2008 JKU. So we got the same kind of frame there. And when I bought that, I was riding with a buddy of mine who was a fellow Jeeper, and someone waved at me. And I was like, he's like, man, you didn't wave back. He got all upset at me. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, man, you've had a Jeep for how long? I was like, dude, what? Yeah. So another buddy of mine, dude, it's not really a Jeep wave. It's a Wrangler wave. And I will agree with that, because ain't nobody waving at no Patriots and Liberties. And, I don't care what social media says. They're all liars. Those guys are liars. I've never, ever seen. Now you'll get sometimes an XJ, you'll get like the wave is getting, and then your MJs, your Comanches and stuff. Like I'll see guys like that. But no, man, it just was not something common. I had a 89 XJ for years, drove all around the country. Ain't nobody waved at me. So it's a Wrangler wave. And if that hurts anybody's feeling out there, I don't care. It's a reality.
It is a Wrangler wave.
Yeah. Like heart.
I wave at a lot of guys that have Wranglers, like I wave at every Wrangler I see.
Yeah.
Now, I know a guy that has the old school Gladiator, the old Jeep pickup truck.
Yep.
The old one.
Yep.
I wave to him all the time.
As you
we
should.
didn't even know each other, and we were waving for months. And then I finally met him and was like, dude, you're the guy that drives the orange pickup truck. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, that's awesome, dude. Love that. But it's because it's nostalgic, and it.
Right.
So in the Jeep world, I would have waved at you because the older Cherokees and Comanche, those are just iconic type vehicles.
Right.
Now, what I hate is the new Gladiator, because you get you get tricked into waving at them. You drive up to them and you see it.
Dude, that is so funny.
It's not. It's a freaking Gladiator.
Dude, that is so funny. You get tricked into waving at a Gladiator. So you're saying you don't want to wave the Gladiator? Oh, that is so funny, man. I'm here nor there on it. I think it's cool. In one aspect, it's like one of those things, like depending how I look at them, I can look at and probably how someone's done some work to it. You can look at it and go, man, that looks cool. And then other days I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's got some great capability though. That's for sure. It's definitely come out the gate.
The only problem that I honestly have with them is I think, if they would have called it something else totally altogether, I don't think I would have had an issue with them at all. I just have an issue with the fact that they called it a Gladiator.
And it's a JKU extended. JKU with a bed. I think if they would have changed the grill, if they would have made the grill more of what the Gladiator grill was, that would have been a huge win. And there is, I guarantee there's probably some, and I got to look, I know I saw it before, but there's some aftermarket front ends that they're looking at to, kind of give it that old school Gladiator look. But I think that would have been super cool, but they're just taking the taking everything on the cheap. Hey, we already have those parts that can go here. It is what it is. And I get it, but from a manufacturer perspective, Jeepers are a little bit snotty. It's just the truth. We're very snotty, very much like Harley. I had a Harley for years, and you get snotty about it. But I will say this: you mentioned it too. Motorcycle people wave to everybody. It doesn't matter what you're riding.
No.
Jeep wave, it's the Wrangler wave, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah, I remember you would just choose what to do off the side, two down, however you want to do it. But yeah, it's a Wrangler wave. It's a Wrangler wave. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
So
Wrangler owners are snotty.
Yeah. Well, so you did a lot of work, and what's interesting you spoke about was, if I would have known about what to look for, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a great point to bring out for people who are looking at used vehicles. Because what I did on mine was I went straight. I didn't even look at the inside, anything. I just went straight into the undercarriage and looked at the armor. There wasn't one scratch. This guy was in town driving around miles. There wasn't anything. And if someone takes it off road one time, you're going to get some scarring from something. It's going to scrape on a little hill. You're going to see something on that armor that's going to show like, oh yeah, this thing had definitely been off road. And, and then on top of it, just all the other things, now that you kind of look at, for, how much off-roading they may have. So what are some of the parts that you had to kind of out the gate replace with your used JK?
Oh man. So, right out the gate, pretty much tires, because you're sitting there looking at these mud terrain tires that were on it. And as soon as I got it, I was driving it home. I went and took it in to get them rotated and stuff, because I didn't know when they were going to be rotated. And they immediately went into you need new tires. And I'm like, what do you mean I need new tires? Aren't those like good tires? I got some knobs left on them. And I've had other off-road vehicles before, just use like an all-terrain tire. And so I was kind of thinking they were all-terrain. So the tires were shot when I got it, which not a big deal. You have to replace those all the time. But I had to replace hoses. There was a radiator, developed a leak within less than 3,000 miles. My emergency brake didn't work.
Oh, that's crazy.
I chalked it up to having big tires. No, that wasn't it.
That's pretty crazy.
Brake. Yeah, there was a lot of little things. And I mean, it was, I don't know, like you said, if I would have known to get underneath the undercarriage and look at different stuff like that and know that. So here's the big thing. This was absolute big thing. And this was something I passed on to my brother that bought a Jeep. They had lifted mine 2.5 inches. Right. And I was like, okay, it comes with a lift. That's cool. Well, there's one way to do a lift, and then
was it a puck lift?
No, they actually changed the coils out, but that was it. They didn't do anything else. The shocks were shot because they were not shocks that were rated for a 2.5 inch lift.
Yep.
They were your stock shocks, and they were blown. And I didn't know that. And the 2.5 inch lift, it's like, okay, I'm just a common guy. I don't have all the money in the world. I mean, I'm retired out of the military, and I don't work another job. My wife works, but we don't make crap tons of money. So I can't go out and buy a $10,000 lift. But you can get a really good lift for just a couple $100. And it's like they had the cheapest freaking lift you could probably think of on the face of the planet on this thing. And I upgraded it twice now, because the first time I upgraded, I thought I was getting an okay lift, but it wasn't capable of doing everything I needed the Jeep to do.
Right.
So I had to do the lift again. So the research of your lift and the research of the parts, and sometimes spending a little extra money does go a long way. I know a lot of times we try to scrimp by with, I can make this work. It's like,
right. Bubble gum and baler wire ain't going to make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't going to make it.
That's to get you off the mountain when you break something.
Yeah. Yeah. And you made a good point though. Yeah. I mean, spend a little bit, because I think I've only had 2 lifts on my Jeep, and I started off on a brand that was a little bit more affordable when I first put it on. It lasts probably 2-3 years, and then I put something else on, and then I started just interchanging things. And I just went to my 3rd set of springs recently, because my Jeep's a daily driver, and I made some choices to modify some things to where I lost a little bit of height, but I got a lot more road comfort out of it. But,
there you go.
The thing about it is because I like enduring products, and that's because, I run an off-road brand, and people hit me up, well, what do you think? I said, well, I always tell them, hey, you can get something that looks good, but you want to get something that's enduring, that's going to last a while. And, for however long you hold that Jeep, hopefully that part's going to hold up for that time period. And, some things, obviously, like tires, you're going to replace, filters, hoses, lines, that's okay. But there's some products that should be, like your engine. It should last pretty much a extremely long time, as long as you keep up the maintenance with it. I'm sitting about 220,000 miles with Root, and the engine's tight, man. So, just got to take care of it.
Yes, I got like 150,000 miles on mine, and she's still running strong. I got a couple things I'm in the process of fixing right now, but the engine itself is still running strong. So, and I've got that 3.8 liter that everybody hates.
You know what? It depends on the factory that yours is built, though, man. That's what I found out. I found out if you were built in factory A, you probably have crappy 3.8s. If you were built in factory B, you're probably okay. Like that's pretty much what I have found out, because every time I've taken it in to, get some work that I'm just not going to do, they'll ask me about it and they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. You should be fine. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. But, a lot of it goes to the factory. I did have to replace my transmission a little over a year ago. That Chrysler transmission was horrendous. And what the transmission shop told me was that specific transmission is good for about 75,000 miles. It was mass produced. It was put in vans, Jeeps, all sorts of different, different products that Chrysler put out. And he's like, yeah, man, I think, you did pretty good for how long that one lasts. And they put a different one in, and pretty much same series, just a different manufacturer, I guess. But, the transmission, I've heard the same things, but my transmission is the only big item I've ever had to replace. I'm now just going to replace the, radiator and the intercooler, just because I think it's time. I want to put new stuff in before it just doesn't work. It's just when your miles get up, you just kind of know that, hey, beat the broken part before it breaks.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like I just bought one of those new, what are they called? It's a trailer. It's the Black Series trailers out of Australia. I don't know if you've seen those.
No, I'm not.
So I've got the Dominator.
Okay.
So, I got the Dominator series of the Black Series trailer. They're awesome off-road. They'll pretty much go everywhere the Jeep will go. And it's got queen size bed and a dinette and pull out stove and fridge. I mean, kind of got the works, but I pull it behind a Jeep. So I went down and got gears done. Well, here locally, we have a place called Just Differentials, and they do nothing but nitro gears. I'll tell you what, a gear job make or break a Jeep. It just makes it. Mine is so much better now. Like I pull that trailer like it's nothing, and it's a 3,000 pound trailer. I mean, it's like towards the higher spectrum of what a Jeep's supposed to pull. Right. And I have no problem at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. What'd you go with as far as your gears? Because you're coming out with the Rubicon, you have 488. So what did you select with?
I went 513.
Okay.
So I don't have as much top end anymore, which is fine, but I've got plenty of crawl power and plenty of tow power.
Yeah.
And where I live, like every once in a while, I have to jump on the freeway to do 70 miles an hour. And I'm like, look, if I'm going too slow for you, you can just go around. I don't care.
Right. Now,
because if you're pulling the trailer anyway, you're doing the 55, like, well, most people are doing the 55 like they're supposed to.
Yeah. That might be Washington State. I know here, man, it's like on our, in North Carolina doesn't really have like, your California highways and stuff like that. That's for sure. You'll be lucky to have 2 lanes going, opposing directions. But like 70s usually I haven't had an issue, but with 3.8, you're not getting forward momentum very quickly, especially like I got 35s on. And what are you running for as tires?
35s.
Yeah. So the deal, man, you're not there for speed. So it's going to take you a little bit. No. But I'm not pulling.
You're driving a Jeep.
Yeah. I'm not pulling that amount of weight though. I have a trailer, but I think I'm probably pulling about maybe even when it puts stuff on about 2K, 2,000 pounds, maybe 2,300, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I haven't had an issue.
Pulling a trailer like that, if you're not going to upgrade, like if you're not going to go with a heavier trailer, and that's probably the biggest trailer you ever pull with your Jeep, then your gear ratio is probably fine. I just knew I was going into a different direction.
Yeah.
So
I was just curious because, I think it's a great thing that you did that, and you were wise enough to make that choice, because it's probably something that trailer's going with you a lot of places all the time now.
Oh yeah. Like this. And the reason why we went with it is just so like I could set up hunting camp. And when we get back, I have a place to go and get some food. Me and the wife on the weekends, we take off and go someplace, and it's like, it's comfortable. I can throw the kayaks on top of it and, go out to some fishing holes that we want to go to. And, I take trips down to Cali, like I said, and it's like, I take it, off-roading and everything. So when I'm down there hanging out with my brother, It's like we go out, drop the trailer off, set up camp, and then we go, wheel in the desert or whatever, and while I'm staying at my brother's place, I just stay in my trailer. I don't have to worry about somebody housing me for the week. I have my own peace and quiet.
Yeah, those rooftop tents, trailers, all that. I mean, they're just really good. I've been on the fence about how. I'm still not sure how I want to set up. I'd like the freedom of certain things. I don't know. I've actually been. My wife has a Tahoe, but it's one of the off-road ones. Has an off-road package in it. And I told her, said, when you're ready to just change out, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to rip off all the spoiler stuff out of this thing, put a lift on it, and I'm going to make that an overland vehicle because it would be perfect for that kind of stuff. Put some, put a lift, put on some beefier tires, put a rooftop temp on, and then, kind of like start building it out from there. But because they're so big, man. And, I don't know. I don't know. It's like one of those things where you're like, think about it. Probably change my mind a few times, but I think a Tahoe would be it. I seen that we had someone on here. Gosh, I can't remember. God, I forgot their name, but they were doing the overland thing out of their like Land Cruiser, and they did a really good setup. And just seeing the creativity, of a lot of different people. I love the 350 vans that have been converted and with the off-road package, and guys have done that. Those look really cool. It just, whatever that goal is, but it's also what you're willing to invest. If we have a guy, Sir William Goes, sometimes he'll contribute to the show, and right now he's RVing it. But when he first started overlanding, it was literally in his Toyota 4Runner, and he had an air mattress. People think they have to have all these big, frills, if you will, and comfort things, but honestly, you really don't.
Oh no.
I was overlanding before overlanding was even a thing. They didn't even realize it, and that was in my XJ.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, just the way I set up my gear, and during when I slept on my stuff, and pull it out when I want to stop, and it's crazy. But those trailers are awesome, and I think the cool thing about it is they've listened to the people. Like, hey, that's great to have a camper, but I want to take my stuff and go. I want to go off road with it. I don't want to just sit by the lake or go to a campground or RV spot. And so those trailers give you that freedom, man. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly.
So, we'll roll back to hunting real quick, because I don't want to skip this, specifically because it comes out with your whole Jeep Hunt Outdoors. And we should have covered this 40 minutes ago. So tell us a little about what is Jeep Hunt Outdoors? Like what is that brand of yours?
Okay. So, I'm going to take this back a little bit. So when I retired out of the military and we moved up to Washington. So I'm originally from Southern California. My family's down there. I got two brothers. My dad's still alive. Mom passed away, a while ago. But when I moved up here to Washington, me and my brothers were always my youngest brother, Patrick, we were sending pictures every day back and forth, like the stuff we were doing. He's big into the outdoors too. So we were sending pictures back and forth, and one day we got the bright idea, oh, hey, let's start a YouTube channel. Or not a YouTube channel, I apologize, an Instagram channel. Let's start an Instagram channel, and we will post pictures on Instagram to keep up in contact. So it was a way for me and him to communicate back and forth without having to just constantly text each other.
Right.
So we got started into that, and then one thing kind of led to another. Next thing you know, we got our own logo. Then we got this. He was the one that took all my life lessons about a Jeep and made a better choice. So
you did your job then.
He was wanting to buy it. Yeah, well, he was wanting to buy a Jeep, and I told him first thing I was like, don't get one that's modded out. And he goes, what? And I go, buy a stock Jeep. Find whatever Jeep you're looking for in your price range and make sure that soccer mom had that and she was driving it around town. He goes, why? And I go, it's just going to save you a ton of headaches in the long run. So that's what he did. He started looking around, crawled underneath it. I told him the whole thing about looking underneath and seeing if there was anything scratched up. Make sure it looked like it had highway miles on it. I go, you're just going to have a way better time. And that's what he did. And so when you look on our Instagram page, you'll always see a black Jeep and then a yellow Jeep. Well, the yellow Jeep's mine and the black one is his. So that's how Jeep Hunt Outdoors kind of got started, as a way for me and him to kind of communicate and keep in touch. We were sharing moments. I guess is what you would call it.
That's cool, man. That's a great story. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool.
So the name itself was basically kind of generic, if you want to say it. It was catchy. Don't get me wrong, but we were like, we both hunt, we both enjoy the outdoors, and we both own Jeeps. Jeep Hunt Outdoors. It was kind of like a 2-day process to come up with a name, and we just kind of started sharing those moments, and we've kind of been steadily growing. I want to say we have a niche group of followers, that kind of do the same, like how me and you were talking about the Jeeps, and we hunt and we fish and we enjoy the outdoors, and it's a niche group of people. We're just trying to motivate other people to just get outside, have a good time.
Heck yeah, man.
If we can do it, the common blue-collared working man can do it, then anybody can. I mean, I don't think it's too hard, to be honest with you.
No, it's motivation.
Yeah, that way.
And that's it. It's just, to me, it's motivation. And there's so much joy to be captured if you're willing to put yourself out there. I think that's it. I think there's a lot of hesitation of judgment. I think that's a lot. And I think social media that's the thing I hate about social media, because you see it with adults and you can only wonder how it affects kids. But I have talked to so many people that were like, yeah, I would have done it, but I wasn't sure, because you see how people react to things on social media. Like, hey, I went out, got this great bow. I really love it. And then you get Mr. freaking, I've been hunting for the last 20 years. I would never pick up one of those. Those things suck and all that.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible. And you got to tell people, hey, just don't listen to that. You're going out there for you. Get around some positive people, and anything that's positive, not positive, you just remove that out of your life. You don't need to, that person's nothing, and it's just noise, and being able to tell people that. And I think that's one of the things is finding good places to be welcome. The deal too, because you hunt, you see that in hunting pages. And again, and this is honest, I've talked about this a few times in the podcast, but Jeepers, as much as it's, lovey-dovey and we love all Jeepers, it's not. There's a chunk of the community, a bunch of, excuse my language, a bunch of assholes. And it's just the truth.
Oh, yeah.
And about, you need to get lockers for light bars and them idiots, because the reality is it's their Jeep. Maybe they don't have, $3-4 they could just drop on a freaking, good front axle that they want. They're stuck with a 35, okay, no problem. Maybe they would just want to just get started into the group and just build from there. Some of that negativity, you just have to tell people, just tone it out. And you know what? What I love about doing all these activities is the fact that I'm not isolated in one box. And we talked about a little briefly about where, you have that veteran just go isolate to something that they enjoy, like whatever it was, video games, and they just put themselves in that shell, and that's the only thing. And I've seen that in different communities too, where people, they do that one thing and they're never going to get out of it because they're the person for that field, which is cool and all. And if you're being a positive influence, that's great. But if you're just being an asshole, then that it's not doing anything for that community.
No, it's not. And I mean, you're absolutely right. I've run into plenty of negative feedback, on this whole entire journey that we've been on. And it definitely it'll dampen your mood sometimes, but you just can't let it. I mean, there is no wrong or right way to do stuff. There's your way. I mean, with any vehicle, it doesn't matter if it's a Jeep. It could be a Toyota pickup truck. It could be a Suzuki Samurai. It could be the freaking Subaru. You need it to do the things that you're doing. That's it. Right. I mean, just because you own a Jeep doesn't mean you got to put a 6-inch slip or 40-inch tires on it because, that's what the rock crawlers do. It's like, no. I've got a 2.5-inch lift on 35. I've done rock crawling. It's not something I do all the time, but I can do it when I need to. But for the most part, I'm hitting dirt roads and back, fire break trails. And, I do, we do complicated stuff, but I'm not into breaking stuff. I want to have a good time. I want to go home and not tell my wife that I got to spend $10,000 to replace the axles underneath my rig. I mean, that's just,
man. Yeah, it's okay when it's not their stuff, man. I know exactly what you're talking about right there. Like, oh, yes, we could talk about a lot of that different things. But, You know, so are you a part of any Jeep clubs or any hunt clubs or anything like that?
No, not really. There's a couple clubs I belong to. I don't even know if you call them clubs. They're organizations, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
So have you ever heard of Veterans Overland?
I am member number 38.
Oh, nice to meet you. I don't even remember what number I am.
You're like 300 something, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I could have swore
like those guys in person.
Uh-huh.
I've literally the guys.
They're from that area though, right? They're from the Pacific Northwest.
They're down in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they came up to Washington for we have the Plain Washington Overland Rally.
Right.
That they do here every year, minus the COVID year. So they're up here. I've met them, and then I met them again when I went down to Oregon for the Toyo Tire Overland Rally. That was the first year they put it on a couple years ago. They treat me, in any member that they meet, they treat you like you're one of the guys, like they've known you their whole life. Like we served together. It doesn't. And so here's my story about this. You're going to get a kick out of this. So I'm sitting down at the plane rally, and I was sitting in on a solar class on how to do set up solar power and stuff like that. I didn't learn a damn thing. I was paying attention, didn't learn nothing. It's like way above my head. Anyway,
it's just batteries and panels, man. That's it.
Yeah. So I was like, what the hell? So I'm sitting here and I'm paying attention to this class, and we're going on. And all of a sudden, this guy sits down next to me, and he puts his hand out to shake my hand. He goes, "Hey, Shawn, blah, blah, blah. I'm such and such." And I was like, "How do you know my name?" You know, like, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's like, this guy knows me. And he goes, "Well, I'm what is this position? One of the 3 top guys that runs that." And they're small. They are not like,
absolutely. Yeah.
But they pulled up. What he did is he was standing behind me, and I happened to have my bag on my back that has my patch on it with my member number.
Right.
He pulled his phone out, went through his list of members numbers until he found my name, and then approached me so that he can make it a more personable meet and greet.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you literally, I mean, how many organizations do you know where they take that time? But because they're still small, that's what they want to do. They want everybody to feel at home when they're around. I mean, you can go over to their thing as a member. It's stupid. You go sit down underneath their little tent where they're selling their shirts and stuff, and just sit there and chill and just have a good time, talk, drink some beers, tell war stories, have a great day. I pulled into the Toyo event, and they immediately, Jeff immediately saw me. Like, he just seen my Jeep, and he was like, "Oh, dude, that's Shawn." And he started waving at me. He's like, "Hey, man, you need to park with us." Like, I had a totally separate area that I had, reserved, but he wanted me to park over by them because I was part of that community.
Yeah, they're a great group,
and
man.
They just cool.
They are. I don't chat with them often, but when they first started out, I was chatting with them back and forth a little bit and stuff. And they are. I enjoy their growth and what they're doing. I think they've inspired other spinoffs and different factors and individual levels. And you're also Overland Bound member. I don't remember that number. Yeah. It's easy to remember the Veteran Overland one. I don't remember the Overland Bound one. But I do. What is crazy is I know that all of my numbers that add up, and this wasn't even planned, all of them add up to 16. When you add the numbers up, it is 16. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So
I've never tried to add my numbers up. I might have to do that at some point.
Yeah, dude. But
Overland Bound member, I love it. They're a pretty good community. I've met a couple of them too. I've actually met the husband and wife that do all the YouTube videos.
Yep.
I met them at a 4x4 convention thing on a weekend. They're pretty nice people. I mean, I like what they did with their forums and stuff, and it's a really good community to belong to. It seems like
it's a great resource community. Very good resource community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I know there's a lot of 4x4 clubs. I know there's a lot of hunting clubs and organizations out there, but I honestly, the advice that I would probably give anybody about joining any of those is do some research first.
Yep.
Not all clubs are cracked up to be what they want to be. and not only that, I mean, if you started joining every club in the local area that you were in, depending on what area you live in, you could be spending your tire money on memberships for clubs every year.
Right.
So, I mean, the cool thing about Overland Bound and Veteran Overland is, like, Veteran Overland, it's a one-time shot, which, there's other ways to give back to their community by buying T-shirts and stuff like that.
Right.
And I've got a few of their T-shirts and a hoodie. I mean, I sport their gear, even though I got my own gear, but I sport their gear still because they're awesome.
I'm with you, man. Yeah. They're good people. I have no problem, like, celebrating the people that are doing good. And, I think that brings a good point with the clubs and organization. It's what are they doing that is enhancing everything around them? Because the problem I see with, certain clubs and certain organizations, is it really about the cause, or is it just using the cause to make it about them? And that's where I really go through social media when I'm looking at, people I want to bring on here or brands I want to associate with. I had this conversation, had a great conversation with two friends of mine that we served in the Marines together in the Force Reconnaissance community. And, that was one thing we talked about was you see a lot of people like using like an event, like, hey, there's this, sick kid or, someone who needs assistance because their house burned down. But then you go on social pages and all you see is their Jeep or, their happy face of themselves and, their friends, but you're not really getting a lot of the story of what they're supporting. And that's the thing I kind of look at. And I'm like, and I don't think some people do it intentionally, but if you're going there to celebrate or to celebrate someone's life that's passed, or you're going there to, help a cause, let it be about that, not about getting your, like count up for that day. So I think that's you're looking at.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do your research, find out about it. I'm pretty fortunate. Like in this area, there's a couple of great clubs that I associate with that, they're very, family oriented. They do try and do things that help out community and such. And that's what I look for. And obviously I can't, for me, my time, I'm all over the map, but when I can participate or I can join them or I can bring the Route 16 brand in to help them bring, information about their cause or group or whatever, I definitely do. And then when people ask me, I can push people their way too. They can be a resource when it comes to, hey, let's go trail riding. Let's, go camping. Let's, may not know the places to go to. Maybe you need some help with, fixing a part. They're a great resource for that. But, I think the hard part too with clubs too is you got to stay true to yourself. Don't try and just fit in. It's kind of like the whole high school thing. Just because someone else put that on a Jeep doesn't mean you need to, just because they did, oh no, you need to go with this. Well, do your research, your money, your Jeep. If you want to put, I don't like Angry Bird grills. I think they're ugly, but that's not my Jeep. And anyone that has that, that's cool. Okay. Hey, you know what? We just might have a little bit of a banter, but I will absolutely respect the fact that hey, that's your look and I'm cool with it because it's your Jeep.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. You gotta do what makes you happy. There's an old saying, and I don't even remember where it comes from, but it's like, you can't take care of other people until you take care of yourself.
Yep.
And I think that really applies is, do what you need to do to make yourself happy, and you'll fit in to these organizations and clubs a lot better, or you'll find organizations and clubs that fit your lifestyle.
That's important.
Part or your part.
Yeah. The interview's both ways. I always tell, when people go job interview, hey, remember the interview's both ways. It's not just them interviewing you. You're interviewing them, see if they're worth your time. And it's not saying that in a snotty way, but when you say yes, you just contributed a piece of your life to this job and position. And that has to be worth something to you. And, remember, interviews go both ways and stuff. Okay. I want to make sure we hit this because I don't want to avoid it. So there's two things I definitely want to talk about. You have that
Okay.
duck on your logo. So obviously you're an avid duck hunter, and you have a wonderful dog that I can totally tell you're pretty attached to. So I figure those two go together. So let's talk about that. What's up with the duck hunting?
So, duck hunting is kind of funny. When I first got up here, I never even wanted to duck hunt. I always thought, man, it's freaking too cold. I don't want to be out at 3:00 in the morning, freezing my butt off. Duck hunting. I always wanted a turkey hunt, to be honest.
Oh, dude, I love turkey hunting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still working on that. I haven't gotten a turkey yet, but sometimes like one of my hunting partners moved away that did the turkey hunting, and I gotta figure it out. Yeah. I'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'll get there. But, the duck hunting thing was my brother. He always wanted to duck hunt. Now, with that being said, I had another buddy that was like, hey dude, he goes, you want to go duck hunting this weekend? And I was like, I've never been duck hunting. And he goes, well, I'll take you duck hunting. I was like, I don't know. I've never done it. I go, I'm not really too keen on it. He's like, oh, come and try it. And he kept pushing me. One of those hunting partners, that just kind of.
Right. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
So I was like, okay. And he was like, my dad's got an extra set of waders. Me and his dad are kind of the same size. So he was like, they should fit you. And he goes, well, me and my other buddy will get you out, and we'll take you duck hunting, see if you like it. Well, first day duck hunting, I was hooked. That was it. I like the duck hunt. Now, I would love to go duck hunting every day. That's not going to happen. I'm 48. I hurt all the time. And, I go out when I can.
Right.
But I love it. It's fun. It's enjoyable.
I haven't got the hook yet. And so I know a couple people that they just got hooked recently and stuff. For me, man, when I look at these mallards and Canadian geese, I'm like, man, I feed those things at a pond. I got to separate that. It's like I understand it. I really do. Because when I talk about turkey hunting with people, they're like, man, how is that challenging? I see them on the side of the road all the time, but they don't look too smart, but people don't realize just what a challenging game turkey can be. But that's the thing is I'm not in that wild duck environment. I'm in the docile, these guys, they know they ain't nothing shooting at them here, but when they're in the wild, it's a little bit different. But it's also you have to do a lot of preparation for duck hunting. I think that's not something you go deer hunt. You just, jump in a stand and I know I'm already done at deer hunters. I'm not trying to I'm just saying from logistics wise, not all the prep wise, but logistic wise, there's a lot of stuff. Your blind, your decoys, your gear, all the different gear you need. And also getting to the spot, because obviously you're probably going to a lake area, it's a challenge, man. Are you doing kayak or boat?
Definitely can be. So actually, bank, do a lot of bank.
Okay.
So I do a lot of my duck hunting off the Columbia River.
Okay.
Which is a pretty big freaking river. I mean,
is that public land?
But, yeah.
Awesome.
Once you get outside of the city limits at a certain point, it turns into public land.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of different spots. I just found a couple new ones the other day that I'm still stoked to go give a try. And I'm not even going to have to decoy or anything. It's pretty much just hike into this spot and they kind of land in there because nobody ever comes in there anymore. So it'll be like a honey hole on a weekend.
Oh, nice.
Which would be nice.
Do you have to do any, I don't know anything about duck hunting. So in that situation, when you still do calls about the decoy, or you just sit there, be quiet. And then when you look at the opportunity, you take it. Yeah.
Sit there. The guy that introduced me to the spot, he stopped hunting it about 6 years ago, I guess.
Okay.
And he was telling me he takes a chair out there and sets up in the bushes and just chills and waits.
Dude, that sounds like
you hit a duck or two, send the dog in.
It sounds like dove hunting.
Which is a nice.
That's what that sounds like. It sounds like dove hunt. You sit down, you got your bucket, and stand up, dove.
Could be. So I've never shot a dove. Something I wouldn't mind trying, but it's one of those things too. It's like I don't even know where to go up here for dove hunting.
They're
right
like
now.
sky ninjas, man. They're sky ninjas. Let me set the environment here for you for dove hunts since you brought it up. Okay. So there is a cornfield. Okay. Out here, I'm just going to explain how it is here. There's a cornfield. So I went public dove hunting just with my son. It was his first time dove hunting. And, we scoped out the spot. We found out where we're going to go the day before. This is going, we're going to get in this time. So we get in there and really you're just like that. You got your chair, You got your ammo, a lot of ammo. You got a bucket, and then you set out maybe a few decoys and stuff. And right as sun up, like when it's sunrise, I think sunrise, it was like 6:05. It is literally the first dove that comes in the field. And this field is surrounded by no less than 40 hunters. Okay. You're in like a square cornfield, right? And so like maybe 3 or 4 days before the season opens, they actually crop that field. So they'll leave lanes. Like they'll cut up most of they'll harvest most of the corn, and you'll see some of it on the ground and stuff, but they'll leave like strips of the field though. So like sections, if you will. And there's all these hunters all around, which is, and again, this is public land too. You don't know any of these cats. And it is just crazy. You'll see this dove like come from the left side of the field and just, and that thing will fly all the way through the field, man. And it's probably, let me see, like 40, so two, like no less than 80 rounds, 80 shot shells. So how many pellets that could be, right? So you got like, I'm thinking at least everyone's probably got at least 2 shots they've got off on that thing. Maybe not 3, but definitely 2. Yeah. So, it's crazy,
man. That's what I kind of like about bird hunting.
Yeah.
Bird hunting is, the dynamic of it is so different. So like deer hunting, it's like you shoot a deer. Normally, if it is done right, and I know it does not always get done right, there are circumstances to this, but it's usually one shot drop. You take your shot, you down your deer, you go skin it, bone it, drag it, whatever you're going to do to it, get it back to the truck, and you're done.
Yeah.
There's this, the climactic ending to that is just kind of like, okay, that's cool. But the meat process of filling your freezer was pretty fast. You did it quick. So, which is nice, but bird hunting, it's like, it lasts, whether it's grouse, chuck, or quail, even turkey. Sometimes it's like, I know I can get like 3 tags here, I think it is.
Yeah.
So like you can go out multiple times, even after you got your first, second, or third, or your 7 ducks on the first day, get another 7 on the second. There's a lot to it. It's like, it kind of keeps you active more. And I think that's what I enjoy about it, which led into the reason why
I never looked at it that way. I like that. I like that. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. I never really thought about that. Yeah.
More opportunities to get out. So like deer hunting for me, I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. But it's like 10 days. You got like a 10-day stretch for a rifle. Uh-huh. So like I do rifle hunting. I tried the bow. I did it for a couple of years. My shoulders just cannot take it anymore. And I just can't see tuning it all the way down to 40 pounds, which is the bare minimum here.
Right.
And you're like having to close all this distance and all this other stuff. It's like, okay, like I'm a good shot with a rifle. I'm going to just keep using my rifle, Right. And I still try to shoot with like within 200 yards. Uh-huh. Like I'm not a guy that goes for the 600 yard, because I feel there's too many things that could go wrong.
Yeah, you want to do a humane shot. That's a big thing. Yeah. It's I get it. Like, yeah, and also too, you don't know what's in between that. There's just so many variables.
No, and I'm not downing anybody that does the longer shots. I mean, it's like, if you're proficient with it and you can do it, that's great.
For elk, I see it, but I don't, for big, giant kind of, that type of animal. For like a deer, that's a lot of scope. That's a lot of glass you got to bring out there. So.
Oh yeah. And that's what, and I mean, as well as that, well, like I started my military career back in 92. So you didn't have like red dot scopes crap on your
man.
AR.
I know. Fixed sights. Yeah. I was 89, dude. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Getting used to a scope is, and some of these guys that I hunt with, I mean, they've been hunting with a scope their whole life. Most of the guys I hang out with are in their 20s, which is cool because their backs are way better than mine. So when we're deer hunting, it's great. But, which, it's a good deal. I mean, it works out, but I guess I'm just not that proficient with the glass. I don't have enough trust in it, maybe, that they do. Maybe that's the problem.
For me, man, there's just so many variables for like that. It's not saying I can't hit some. I can absolutely hit some at 600 yards. It's just that when you're hunting, I mean, dude, I will not take a shot unless I know absolutely I got that thing. It's dialed in and it's going to go where it needs to go. I mean, I want a humane shot. I don't want to like shoot this thing in the gut and all. It's just not the type of hunter I am, man. If I was a starving hunter, I get it. Like, hey, it's an opportunity. I got to take it, but I'm not in that situation. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, we can go to the supermarket to get food if we need to. We're not in the lifestyle where it's like live or die.
Right.
So it's like, don't take those shots. I mean, most hunters, I believe, I want to keep a positive mentality on this. And I know it's not always positive, but most hunters, I believe, are ethical. They're one shot kills. We're not out there to try to, we're not murdering anything. We're filling the freezer. We're doing our part for conservation. We are, eating healthy. I mean,
hunters are the best environmentalists, man. For the most part, they are.
Yeah. You gotta, people are like, oh my God, you killed that deer. And it was like, yeah, but the deer, if they get overpopulated, they get diseases and they get all kinds of crappy stuff. I mean, I watched a guy burn a tag on a doe that was like mangled. Like she wasn't going to last the winter.
Right.
And he wasn't going to keep the meat. Like it had gotten chewed up by some coyotes and managed to get away.
Right.
And he burned the tag on her. He had a doe tag and he burned and now getting a doe tag is like, you got to put in for it. You're burning points. And he burnt his tag on this mangled up doe that would have died within the next couple of days. But, you're sitting here and you're looking at this animal and it's not right. It's like, you can't tell me that you looked at that animal and didn't feel any remorse for it. It's like, come on. It's like, she doesn't need to suffer like this. It's like, put her down, eliminate her suffering, let her move on to the next stage of her life. I mean, come on, and I think most hunters would react the same way. True hunters,
Oh, I agree with you, man.
So it's like,
I agree with
you.
you.
I'm not a trophy guy. It's like when I go out deer hunting, I see a legal buck, I'm taking it. I'm not going to wait for the bigger one down the road. It's like, I'm not out there to do antlers. I'm out there to fill the freezer. Nothing better than cooking a homemade meal with the deer that you just got that week and put food on the table for your family. And I mean, I don't think that people understand the just true nature of being a hunter. They will never experience that portion of manhood, I guess.
Well, I would just say, as far as just being the hunting aspect for the human nature of things, like they've gotten away from that whole survivalist in a way where that's how we ate. Like you can go back and if someone did not go out and hunt, they didn't eat. We are, our ancestors going back to the cave days and stuff. They had to hunt. So they just had to. But going back to something you said, like the trophy thing, like I'm with you. And my friend Chuck, he said it. I thought he put it in very good context. Cause like me, I'm not a person that really gets too big on the trophy stuff. But he's like, it's kind of, you can sit there and you mount that deer or that, harvest and you look at it, it's a memory that's forever captured and you can just think about the entire thing. And I think the way he put it, I just never looked at it like that. And I was like, man, I totally get that. So like my son, his first pig harvest, he's got his pig skull and he got a button buck. His first deer this year was a button buck and he's got that on his desk.
Oh, nice.
And every time I look at those, I don't, it's not the grody things you're thinking about. You're thinking about that entire day, that entire hunt that, all the components of it that you're able to and share with it. And you're celebrating the animal in many ways. Because it was a challenge to even get, and it wasn't like it just showed up and said, "Hey, shoot me,"
No, I'm the same way. I European mount all my deers, on my deer rack, and I've got a 3x3 or a 3x2 sitting right next to a 4x4, and I'm just as proud of the 4x4 as I am that 3x2.
Yeah,
like it. it doesn't bother me. Like I look at, because each one of those is a memory. Like I can look at that 4x4 and I can tell you exactly where I got him, how far the shot was, and what happened in that time frame. And then turn right around to that 3x2 and tell you just an interesting story about that 3x2.
Yeah.
Probably more interesting about him than it was the 4x4, to be honest with you. So, I mean, it's like, you know, going out and just like, oh my God, I got to get the biggest deer I could possibly find, and I got to beat yesterday's record. It's like, okay, I'm not seeing that, but you know, go ahead, do what you got to do, I guess.
You know, I have it where it's like two ways. So if I'm on public land, then I'm probably, you know, depending on population, all the research, 'cause you know how you can go back into the records and find how many harvests and what the year the cycle is and stuff. You know, I'll sit there and I'm the same way. I'm like, hey, you know what? If I get an opportunity, I didn't really do a lot of I only went on public land one time this deer season, just because I haven't been able to get out a lot this season. For the property that like this lease I'm on with two other guys, we really do try to follow a very strict QDMA pattern. So we're very hesitant to knock down a healthy buck. We want that thing to get well beyond 3 years or so he can, bring his other champions in, if you will. But we have does for days, man. Like I'm telling you, I'll get a game cam in and I'll have like 6 or 8 does in that thing. So these bucks, they're just having a field day out there. I'm waiting for another like 2 years and seeing like some just monsters out there.
Monsters come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong.
No, I'm not. I think it's just how you look at it. Far as
big.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But if I run across a big, huge monster, well, yeah, I'm going to take a shot. I'm not even going to lie. But then I also have a track record too. It's like hunt one year and I take a deer, and then for some reason the next year I go out hunting and I don't get anything. So I scratch a tag that year. So like it kind of, like, I don't know, it kind of boils down to like the following year. It's like, just, you're out. If you see a couple, track them, see which one you want to harvest, and, have at it. And like I said, to me, it's not always like about how big that rack is. It's about the memories that you're sharing with your partners. Because I do not like hunting alone. I'll be honest with you. I get sketched out. I don't know, if my back's going to be able to handle to carry a whole deer out. Uh-huh. I don't know what's going to go wrong when I'm out. I like to have, at least a pair, me and another buddy out doing our thing, having a good day.
No, it's cool, man.
And I don't mind going out a couple of days.
Yeah, I'm like, that's one of the things my son, he's 13 now, going to be 14 in April. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing with him. And I'll go out with a couple guys every now and then, and depending on what we're hunting and stuff. But I mean, we went, funny. I went to an outfitter that they come out from the same community I come from in the Marine Corps, and they run an outfitter on the East Coast here in North Carolina. And it was opening weekend for deer season for rifle. And what it was these guys, they had a lot of buddies that was in the Corps with them when they were in the infantry. So before they came over to the constant community, they were in the grunts. And so a lot of their buddies from the grunts, and it was just, it was probably something that I wouldn't want to record. I mean, oh my gosh, my son got an introduction to just a lot of words he didn't need at that point, but it was just the camaraderie of things, and being able to go out, go do your hunt for the day, come back together, get ready for the evening, go out, because we hunt pig and stuff too, and it was just, yeah, man, it was really cool to do that, and that whole camaraderie, and for him to kind of experience that in a way, because, there was some crudeness, just, bunch of, Marines out there, being themselves, but there was a lot of things, take that part of it away, that just great lessons learned about the connection that these guys have had for decades. From, little bit of time they served together in the Marine Corps, but yet it has endured for, 20 years or longer. And for him to really capture something like that, because it's one thing to see it from your dad and his buddy or something like that, but it's another thing to see it outside of that realm and say, look, yeah, man, this is honestly, unfortunately, not necessarily the norm either. But the fact that you can come together hunting, it just, I don't know, it kind of just brings it all together. I really, really did enjoy doing that with him. Yeah, I said, hey, all that stuff, you don't bring that home, man. He's like, I know, Dad, I know. Like, but it was just, oh my gosh, man. I don't need to elaborate, man. Just think of like day, 45 on the ship in the Pacific, still bebopping around, not hitting port, and like those classes, so the stories that come out at that point. But, yeah, man. So, I mean, you know what, dude, I could sit here and talk to you for another hour and a half. I think this is just great. And, I know that our listeners are going to get a lot out of this, and I hope that, they connect with you. So with that being said, how do people find you? Where are you located at? Let them know. We'll make sure to put it in show notes as well.
So, right now we're on Instagram. Obviously, it's Jeep Hunt Outdoors. You can just type it in, and the hashtag pops up pretty quick a lot of times nowadays. So you can find us there. If you are on Facebook, I have a small Facebook page that's attached to our Instagram that's underneath the same name, Jeep Hunt Outdoors. And you can get us both on that. Also, we have started, and it's super small. We're waiting for things to come in, but we started a online store. I got a business license and got all that good stuff set up. It's in the bio of our Instagram page. And the big thing to do with that is I'm not trying to get rich. I am not trying to be a millionaire. We had requests of people wanting a baseball cap or a t-shirt with our logos on it. What me and my brother had decided to do is we were going to open the store, and every year, once we balance the books, get everything set aside, take what we made, take a portion of what we made, and donate it to organizations that we feel are doing what we're doing.
Oh, I love that.
So and it's, like I said, it's not to make the money. You want the business to grow so it'll make money. Like, I'm not going to lie. That's right. The way it works. I got to, you got overhead, you got cost, and we're keeping everything small. So it's like, if you get on there and then we don't have it one day, you might have it the next. And right now we just have our stickers out there, but if you want to reach out and you want one of our stickers, I'd more than glad just do trades or send you one. We have the stickers. I'm waiting for baseball caps, beer koozies, and then we're going to start doing t-shirts.
Yeah, so right on.
All a money game. And we're doing it really slow, not trying to be like Grunt style or anything with an inventory that will just completely fill your closet up for the rest of your life. But we are trying to just put a couple things out there so that we can make a couple dollars to give back to community projects or organizations that we think that are going to benefit, like veterans and kids and stuff like that. So that's where we're at on that. And as far as anything else goes, I don't think we're anywhere else. Reach out anytime you want to. Send an email. You can get it off the Instagram or Facebook, or just message us through the Instagram. I'm more than happy to answer people's questions or talk to them about anything.
Yeah, so, right on, man.
And it's small. I'm not a computer guy, so all this stuff is just taking a lot of time.
You got a little bit of a learning curve going on. Nah, you'll get it, man. You'll get it. It's it's.
I'm still a crayon eater sometimes. So.
Oh, I know I am. I'm okay with that. You'll get it, because the thing about it is, when you're involved in something like a project like that, and as long as you continue to enjoy it, and that's the thing is when you're not enjoying it, then that's where you start looking at stuff, and you might have to rearrange. And I've gone through those transitions with my brand, Root16, and I've had to kind of like teeter back a little bit, kind of lost myself and my time and all the things, the whole purpose of why. As long as you stay true to that, I think you're good. And I'm good now, man. I mean, I'm happy where everything's going. I've got great sponsors. I got this podcast that I'm glad to see where it's blossomed to where it's going, and we're still doing some good things. And, we'll just see how it continues and stuff. But I'm really excited that, you've been able to find the time to strip away to have a conversation about, Jeep Hunt Outdoors, a lot about you, share your experiences. And I think there's a lot of people that I connect with, a lot of things you shared. So thank you, Shawn, for your time. Definitely stay connected. Love to find some opportunity to where maybe we could do something together. It'd be really cool.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
really
brother.
Enjoyed our time and the discussions, and hopefully we can do this again.
Hell yeah. Rock on. Hey, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother.
The Cup of Joe segment is brought to you by Seastate Coffee. Have you ever actually drank good coffee? Stop wasting your money on old, stale coffee from the store and make the switch to Seastate Coffee. Seastate Coffee is a United States Marine Corps veteran-owned and operated roastery, selling premium coffee that's roasted on order and delivered fresh to you. Order your coffee today at www.seastatecoffee.com.
Well, that was a really long show, and I'm hoping that you enjoyed that interview with Shawn. I definitely did. We could have talked probably for another hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. I'm going to definitely stay in touch with him. And I also had a lot of projects going on, and I know that a few of y'all are like, hey, when you going to put another episode out? And I want to focus on at that moment. It's not because I didn't want to do the podcast, not because anything's bad's happening or anything like that. It's just that I kept putting stuff off to include hunting. That's something I really want to get into and get more knowledge on and far as the areas that I'm looking to hunt. And I didn't have a lot of opportunity to even get out and do that. And then obviously I had a lot of stuff going on with Root the Jeep I needed to attend to. And then just life in general, personal things that I want to focus on with my ham radio stuff. I want to focus on knowledge and getting something up with that. And then my personal development, technical development, and as far as the field that I'm in for my job. I need just a lot of things with that. And I need to put some time away to do those things just for Brian and focus on that. Not that I don't love y'all, because I do. I appreciate all the support, especially those who've been with me from day one. I'm just so grateful. And I love that this show, even though we haven't been putting out a podcast last couple months, it's been growing. I'm getting some 5-star reviews. Hey, if you leave a review, please leave some comments. I appreciate the 5 stars and I really do, but please leave some comments. I love to hear from you. And if you have recommendations, or how was something too that was pretty crazy. I got a couple people hit me up about, some recommendation. Hey, it'd be really cool if you did this, really do that. As you guys know, I have a big, I would like less government in my life. So I had some people talk to me about some things like that. I just want to be very clear here. I'm not anti, hey, I love America. I'm not, it's just when this last election season, and I'm actually glad I do any podcast during this whole election, it's an embarrassment. This whole election season was an embarrassment. We have an outgoing president that, could have been a little bit more presidential in many aspects. Now, Trump did do some good things, but there are also some things he didn't do that were very good. Was he a good ambassador for, all Americans? That's questionable. I'm not saying that, I don't know the guy personally. I just know that, he could have did a better job in respecting the office in many aspects. And that was my personal opinion. If you don't listen to me anymore because of my personal opinion, then, hey, that's cool. Then that's part of the problem is we're picking sides. How about we just, pick the argument? If you're pro Second Amendment, you should be pro Second Amendment, not going, well, hey, my guy said it's okay to, line right out by organization, bump stocks, and all this other stuff. I mean, that's pretty shady. That's absolutely shady. So for all y'all think that Trump's all Second Amendment, no, he's not. Then you got this other guy coming in with Biden. I mean, I don't think the guy's going to make it 4 years, for one. And then two, it's just people elected him just because he wasn't Trump. It had nothing to do with stance. It's embarrassing. It is absolutely embarrassing where our politics are. We all have more in common than we realize. But when we choose sides and not choose to be, united in the aspects of what we were trying to achieve as a people, government wants us separate. They want to create this. They want more power. Look what's going on with the COVID. And I'm really not looking to turn the Cup of Joe series into this political forum, but I just want to understand where I'm coming from, because, I am going to be a little bit more vocal in certain things on this podcast with, things that tie into the outdoors and stuff. To kind of probably heard a little bit of that with that's why I want to talk about the Land and Water Conservation Fund, this podcast too. These are things that matter and we have to get involved, but we need to have conversations. If someone doesn't I don't care who you voted for. I will still hold a conversation with you. I will still have a cup of coffee with you, and we can talk about and share ideas, and we can learn from each other. I'm fine with that. That's the problem. People don't want to do that. It is so ugly nowadays where people are like, you have to pick a side or it's all or nothing. And that's just not the case. There are some things we can agree on and work towards. There's some things we may disagree on, but it's not saying we can't find common ground. And I literally, this whole political season, this election season, I was absolutely embarrassed. I was embarrassed for us as a people, as Americans. And I mean, hey, I voted for Joe Jurgensen, man. There's some things I don't necessarily agree with her, but I like the fact that, this is a person that's going to come in and understand that the power's in the people. It's not into the government. And when you have that much money that is involved in elections, it just, look what's going on with Georgia right now. It's insane. It's insane. And I'm hoping that we can do better. And for me as an individual, I'm trying to, like, this podcast is an outlet. The things I do with volunteer work in my community is an outlet. Being involved in the different, communities, from the off-road stuff to the hunting stuff and all that, being able to engage with people, it's going to help create solutions by sharing conversations, sharing ideas. But I'm back on here, and hopefully you guys will continue to listen. And I don't mean to go off on that commentary. It's just, I don't know. I think it was a little buildup from all the election stuff. It just blows me away. But understand that we can always talk. We may not agree, but that's okay. That's what a true free environment is about, listening to ideas that you may not agree with. But that person doesn't need to feel threatened because they shared the idea. That's what a true free environment is. And if you really are about freedom, you should understand that. And that part is what needs to be protected.
Thanks for listening to the Route 16 Grind. We want to thank our amazing sponsors, Warren Industries, Tuffy Security Products, Sea State Coffee, and Route 16 Off-Road for their support. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and more. Just look for Route 16. That's ROOTONESIX. Or just go to route16.com. Until next week, plan smart, be safe, and as always, be prepared.
Happy New Year!
Yeah!